Well, hey, welcome back to the Quick Speed Shop. We're here once again. Got a tool review for you today, and we're working on my 1995 Ford F250. Been having some drivability issues. It's been missing and acting like it's running out of fuel, and I got a feeling that there's some kind of problem related to the fuel pump or the fuel pressure. So we're going to hook up this fuel pressure gauge I bought at Harbor Freight. What I have here is a Maddox fuel injection pump tester. This threads on the schrader valve of your fuel injection system, and they're all kind of different, but this one is a multi-port injection V8 Ford unit, and there is a schrader valve right over here we'll see in a second. And you put this guy on there and you fire up the engine, and it tells you the fuel pressure. Now I want to say this engine, oh look at this, it comes with a small schrader valve adapter for Ford. We've got a Ford, so we might have to use that. I want to say this was like 35, 40, 50 bucks, I forget, because I can't find the receipt because I bought it a couple weeks ago. But you can go right to Harbor Freight and get this. It's MD61. We'll open her up in a second and try this out. Now what I have had issues with is this thing missing. It acts like it's running out of fuel, stalling. I turn the key, the fuel pump sounds weak. First thing we're going to do is we're going to test fuel pressure with this fuel pressure injection deal unit here. Okay, here under this is the air injection system blow-off valve. Right below that you'll see a schrader valve here with a cover on it. And I'm going to open up the fuel injection, Maddox fuel injection kit here. So I completely mangled the box for busting open the back over here. It looks like a hungry dog got into it, but apparently it's the only way to get it open. So I need pretty sure I need the adapter, schrader adapter. So let's, should be able to take the cover off the schrader valve. That's a schrader valve, just like a bicycle tire as far as I'm concerned. I think it's unscrewing, yes it is. Now this has got the little guy. And we should have the adapter here in the little box of parts that comes with the kit. It says Ford, and I believe that will thread right out of there. Yes, it does. Look at that. Well, this engine's a little warm. Hopefully we don't get fuel everywhere. Okay, I gotta tighten that up with a wrench. The gauge kit here comes with this long plastic line. This is to bleed off the fuel into a can or whatever. And the pressure gauge has a knurled fitting that will thread onto the schrader valve. Like so. Oop. Now be aware, when you tighten it up, it will spurt fuel out, like you're just seeing right now. So you don't want to do this on a really hot engine. Tighten that guy down there. We've got fuel everywhere. Let me get a bungee cord to hold our gauge in place so we can look at it. I've got the gauge installed. I'm going to turn the key on. All right, we went to about 810 psi. Cycle the keys a couple times. It'd be easier if I had two hands. Now I'm going to start the truck and we're going to see what the fuel pressure is. And right now it's showing about 25 psi at idle. I think it's supposed to run at 30 to 45 psi. So it seems to be a little bit low. Right there you can see the fuel pressure is running about 27 psi. And it should be 30 to 45, so we definitely got low fuel pressure for whatever reason. It could be the pump, it could be the regulator has gone bad and allowing too much gas to return to the tank. You can hear it kind of missing a little bit. Let me go ahead and see if we pull the vacuum line off the fuel pump. The fuel pressure regulator is back here in the back. There's a vacuum line off it. Well, actually, I can see it's got a crack in it. Does that affect anything? If I pull this off, the vacuum should, I believe, let's pull it off and see what happens. Oh, look at that. Our fuel pressure raised. That's curious. Fuel pressure just went up 10 psi. Very curious. Now I'll put the vacuum line back on. The engine runs pretty smooth at the higher fuel pressure. When I put the vacuum line back on and lower the fuel pressure, it starts to miss. It's running rougher when I do that. You can see the gauge shaking around. That's curious. I'm going to say we got a bad fuel pressure regulator. This thing should, when I rev it up and the vacuum goes away, it should act like it did when I take the line off. It should increase the fuel pressure. You see the pressure goes up for a second, then it actually goes down. Actually, the engine runs smoother now with the higher fuel pressure. It's running about 37, 38. Now we definitely got an issue. The internet says the fuel pressure should be anywhere from 30 to 45, more around the 40 psi range. As you can see, we're only down at like 24, 25 psi, and unplugging that fuel pressure regulator, the vacuum, as the vacuum goes down, which is the same thing as unplugging the line, the fuel pressure increases. So if you got in the throttle, the engine vacuum goes down and you need more fuel pressure. So fuel pressure goes up as the engine vacuum goes down. So when removing the line altogether, you would expect the fuel pressure to go up like that. and even the end of the boot to the vacuum line looks like it's almost got a leak in it. But even if it did leak, you would hear it number one of your ear, and the fuel pressure would be higher than expected, not lower than expected. So I got a feeling that fuel pressure regulator, the spring or the diaphragm or however it works, is bad. It seemed to run stronger with a higher fuel pressure, revving it up. Obviously, this is a closed-loop computer system, so it might have learned to run at the lower fuel pressure, and it might take, you might not immediately notice a difference in it here. I was trying to tell by the engine missing and stuff, but definitely when I was driving it before, it would like cut out and buck and acted just like it was running out of fuel, and a couple times it actually stalled. Now I didn't see that on the gauge this time, but it appears to be a fuel pressure problem. So I ordered a fuel pressure regulator from Rock Auto. They weren't that much money. I want to say like $40, $25, $30, $40, something like that. I forget. And I think we can change it fairly easily. I think it just mounts to the top of the fuel rail, and then we'll hook the gauge back up and see what we see doing that. All right, I switched to the front tank just for grins and giggles to see what this thing was doing. And look at the gauges hopping around here from like 22 to like 24. Let's pull the vacuum line again. It should go up about 10. Ooh, it doesn't. All right, it's going up. There we go. It's going up a little bit. So it did increase. Okay, it's increasing some. This could have bad pump in the front tank, because that's real low pressure. We could definitely have a bad pump going bad in the front tank. Let me switch back to the rear tank. See if we get any difference on the rear tank. All right, we picked up some fuel pressure, I can see already. So that's gonna tell me that the front tank pump is probably going bad, but we still have low pressure. Rear pump is good, front pump is weak. It's holding fuel here. When I switched it to the front tank, it would bleed the pressure down, actually bled down. Check it out. This should bleed pressure. Yep, there it goes. Boom. All right, we bled that down to 0, so now there's now there's 0 fuel pressure in the rail. All right, well, I had to go put trucks and cars away because it started raining for a minute, and now it's dark out, but at least we'll show you the fuel pressure regulator. So it's just a little guy here where the vacuum line goes on top. It's got a couple of O-rings down here and this line, and there's a gasket here, and it bolts right on top of the fuel rail bank like that. I was going to change it tonight, but there's really no sense. I could do it here in the dark, but in case I drop any screws or anything, I don't want to have that happen. And I can't start the truck up. Now it's 9 o'clock at night. I don't want to be revving it up with my neighbors and stuff. So I'm going to go and pause and edit some other videos to put out a couple other videos on the channel. And we'll come back tomorrow AM and we'll swap her out and fire this thing up and check the gauge and see if it made it any better. I'm hoping it does because I need this truck to run. So let's switch over to morning. Okay, it's the next day, and This is a little tricky to get to. It's like 5/32 Allen bolts. That's the one I got that fits here, and you guys probably can't see, but I'm having a hard time. Might be easier with a 1/4-inch ratchet. I can't barely reach it. I gotta get in here. Maybe I can kneel on this core support on this. That's better. So, like I said, they're like 5/32 Allen screws, and they're. Oh, this one's turning okay. It's gonna be hard for you guys to see what I got going on here, but if you're working on your truck, it's fairly obvious. On the back of the fuel rail, the 2 Allen bolts on top. Maybe I can get in there and show you when I get done, but okay, it's just gonna pull right out of the top of the fuel rail, I guess. Oh, there we go. Boom. The bottom of it looks a little different. Now we got 2 different seals here. This one's got a single O-ring across the bottom, and the other one's got a full height gasket. But the metal piece is flat, so if I put this full width gasket on the bottom, I don't think it's gonna seal correctly. So I think this brown one wants to be down in the hole. There. Oh, it appears to be the same. Will that fall right off? Yes, it will. How am I going to do this now? I'm going to have to get it up in there. I don't know how I expect you to use that new style gasket when this thing makes a flat mating surface. O-rings don't want to go in. Get it in there, it tore that new O-ring. The new O-rings are didn't want to go. It tore it. It's like it's too big. I'm gonna have to transfer the original brown O-rings off the original one. Yeah, they're a little smaller diameter. The new O-rings are too big of a diameter. Just so you get parts, cheap aftermarket parts. Sometimes they don't fit. Transferred the original Ford O-rings, which appear to be a slightly smaller diameter. Transferred them over to the new unit here. Hopefully they will press down in there without any big deal. Man, it's impossible to get light in here. Yep. Okay, they sealed right back up in. That's what it needed. The new O-rings are just a little too large in diameter, and they would not go down. This is a pressure vessel, so it's got tight tolerances, and those new O-rings were just too big. Whoever made it, aftermarket, they're like, well, here's an O-ring, it seems to be all right, and obviously it was not. So here's our old fuel pressure regulator, and hope you could see, but these O-rings, they're just too big, and they wouldn't go on there, just aftermarket cheap O-rings, and this guy would have jacked this whole thing up off the plate, so that wasn't going to work. But this is the original Ford one here. So let's fire up the motor and see if it made a difference. So we're going to cycle the key a couple times and see what kind of pressure we build with the rear pump. Okay, cycle the key a bunch of times. Don't see any fuel leaking at the regulator. We're up to almost 30 with the key. Let's go ahead and start it. Well, isn't that curious? It appears to be the same. It's 26 pounds now it's gone to, which is a little bit better. Let's rev it up and see what happens. Very curious. I think what I'm gonna have to do is drive it. It's possible both my pumps are weak. I'm gonna have to keep tinkering with this. I don't know, it seems like we've bumped the pressure up maybe 2 psi, but all the internet looking I did says it wants to be above 30 at idle and like run between 30 and 40 when you're running, so it still seems like it's low. I mean, it's possible both pumps are weak. It's obvious the front pump, there's something wrong with that. We saw the pressures all over the place. So obviously that pump is bad. I'm gonna change that out. I mean, it's possible the rear pump could be bad as well. I know it's not the fuel filter. I replaced the fuel filter not too long ago, so it's got it should have good clean fuel flow to it. And the pump should be able to pump through, you know, when we took the vacuum line off and the spring picked up, obviously it was able to make enough pressure that way with by closing the return off a little bit. So I'm gonna have to drive it and see. Obviously I'm gonna replace the front pump. If I replace the front pump and put the gauge on it and it's up to like 30, 32 psi at idle, that tells me the rear pump is also weak, so I'll replace the rear pump, I guess, as well. And the truck's at 230,000 miles on it, so it's possible both pumps are just tired. You know, it's entirely possible. So I guess at least we did the unboxing of the Harbor Freight Maddox. I kind of destroyed it, but at least we got to unbox this from Harbor Freight and use it and do a little diagnosing. It told me right away that my front pump was bad, and it's good to have some options. I'm going to do a tune-up on the truck as well. Eventually I'm going to put new plugs in it. They got about 40,000 miles on the plug, so go through and tune it up and make sure I'm running tip-top, but at least we can know what the fuel pressure is now and go from there and keep this old 95 Ford F250 on the road. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bam, here working on stuff. Getting all dirty at the Quick Speed Shop.